So welcome back, everybody. This is going to be an interesting episode right here because I believe what we're going to cover in this is some last minute framing and stuff that we need to get done before I call the inspector out for our first huge inspection. Now, we've had inspections for foundation and been signed off on, but we haven't seen the inspector in quite a while. The next actual inspection to sign off on is the framing, and we've got just a few more things to do. So we're going to cover that in this episode, as well as I'm going to call the inspector out after we knock out what we're about to, and I'm going to let you know in this episode, did we pass? Was it good? Was it bad? Did he find anything? Ultimately, I'm looking for the thumbs up on the framing so we can start putting the sheathing on the outside, and we have been busting butt getting the roof done so we can put roof decking on. Then we'll have to get another inspection. Then ultimately we can put the metal roof on, fascia if we want to, ridge vent, caps, then put doors and windows in, ultimately drying in the house. That's what I'm looking forward to. No more rain in the house. We're quickly approaching hurricane season, and I just want to get this structure locked down. That's all I can think about. Then I can relax a little. All right, if y'all been following along, we are pretty much done. We've got all the hurricane strapping done. We've got the roof on. We've got the sub fascia done. We've got the big screen porch roof. Boy, was that a job to do solo. So we've got everything to where we can start sheathing. Ultimately, we don't have the screen porch floor in. We don't have the outside porch and stairs. And there's going to be a long porch going down over here. Okay, but we're missing something very, very important, and the inspector's probably going to say, I need to see that, even though he could come back and check it after the fact. And that is an insane amount of blocking, which is required for two different reasons for us. Okay, so blocking is your horizontal cross members that'll have to go in, and I'm going to do them every 4 feet going up. So ultimately, sheathing is going on the outside, but we have specific nail patterns on our sheathing on the edges. Well, look, there's nowhere, say we put a 4x8 piece of sheathing on right here, well, the edge is going to stop somewhere right in here, and there's nothing for it to nail to. And it's for this very reason we're going to do all our blocking perfectly in a row. I get comments all the time on, why don't you do staggered blocking? Well, that may work where you're at, but we have to nail the edges here, high wind zone, hurricane zone, on roof decking and on sidewall sheathing. It's got specific edge nail patterns, and if I stagger my block, well, you can't nail the edges of two pieces butted together. We'll cover that in just a minute. Blocking also serves another very critical purpose, and it's required here regardless of nail edging or not, which we have to stop and prevent spread of fire. All right, so imagine in the wall here, an electrical box starts a fire. Well, the fire can quickly race up and into the attic, taking the structure down quickly. Putting blocking in, well, that actually creates much smaller cavities, starves a potential fire of air, and just doesn't allow it to spread as quick. I don't know that all zones require fire blocking, but for here we certainly do. And again, for the nail edging, I've got to have it for both those reasons alone. So that's something you need to keep in mind. Now, I'm no professional. I could be telling you some of this wrong, but my plans specifically say edge nailing requirements for the wall sheathing. And the only way I know to do that is have blocking behind every single edge. And I'm not going to go back and measure every single stud and make a mark. What we're going to do is just make a quick, simple jig with a piece of scrap 2x4. All right, so as you seen pulling off right there, that was the building inspector. So we just did a full once around on the house, looked at everything. He literally only had just a couple of questions, which I'll go over with you. Very simple. Didn't ping me for anything. Super friendly. I am so blessed and thankful to have a nice inspector like this, because sometimes some don't want to talk to you, don't want to deal with you. I get it. They go through a lot of stress and aggravation in their life. People try to cut corners, try to pull one over on them, so they probably always come out on the defensive. That has not been the case with my current building inspector, in this county at least. And I also took the opportunity, I jotted down some notes on my phone, asked him if I could speak to him for just a minute about the next steps, what he's looking for. So I'll explain some of that as well. All right, so I could tell the main thing he was really focusing on was roof truss connections. And well, this is one of the counties that just got hit by back-to-back hurricanes. Two of them were major just over the last couple of years, and our coastline, literally houses wiped completely off foundations. It looks like a bomb went off. So not only is he working way inland, taking care of stuff like mine, he's now running back to get lunch and has to drive all the way to the opposite end of this county near the coast, because there is a tremendous amount of rebuilding going on down there. So he was very particular about paying attention to the roof connections. He asked me questions about the type of tie plates that we have, which he okayed. Obviously, it's in the engineered plans. But he spent the majority of his time focusing on the roof, paying attention, and then again, we talked about some future things. The one thing he did point out, no concern whatsoever, he was just questioning why we have these smaller hurricane tie plates right here. Well, when I explained to him the reason we went with these small ones versus the big tie plates that you see up here, well, it's because engineered plans called for that. Once we pointed that out, he said absolutely no problem. But what I also pointed out to him as well, I was curious to see if he cared if I overdid something. Really, it's kind of not up to him. That's more of the engineering side of it. I did point out that we put 8-inch triple coated structural screws in. Y'all watched me install those in another episode. That goes all the way up into those common frame rafters, in addition to those tie plates. When he heard me say and point out some of the things that I've overdone, he liked that. He really did. He says, I don't blame you for doing that. Again, you could tell probably with all that he's seen with the hurricanes and stuff around here, the roof was his big concern. Doesn't mean he didn't eyeball everything else. He looked at strapping around the outside of the house and a few other things as well. All right, so I personally had some concerns and some questions. I'm going to be honest with you. One of the concerns I had, being that he sees so many homes and goes through so much stuff, y'all, we just finally had 3 days of rain while we were on vacation. The sun didn't really come out, heavy rains. And, well, mold has started showing up everywhere in the house. And the reason I bring this up, we're going to do a full episode on this. This is perfectly normal, my friends. I've had some of y'all ask me, what do you do when you're building a solo house like this? It takes longer to get it closed in, and rain and stuff comes in, or mold shows up. Well, it's just going to happen. Mold showing up. You can see the floors a little darkened because, well, we just had 3 days of rain, no sun, house didn't get dried out. All this is splashing everywhere. You can see it starting to come up the studs. It's definitely up there on the trusses. Those must have had a high moisture content. But then there's some walls that look absolutely perfect. So there's not a whole lot the inspector can do about that. But I asked him, I'm like, hey, you see a lot of homes. I was like, would you be concerned with any of that? He said, absolutely not. We see that all the time. And just to let y'all know, I've actually already ordered quite a bit of money's worth of a professional mold stain remover, a professional mold treatment and abatement type chemical that not only go in the wood and takes care of the mold spores, but I forget the terminology. It basically leaves a coating behind on the wood, kind of like that's in your treated wood, and it's supposed to stop any regrowth. I'm not even going to treat this house, honestly, until I get it fully enclosed in, and we'll do an entire episode on that, because this has been a very common question for me, a huge concern. But what y'all have to understand, everybody, is houses are going to get rained in. I don't care if you've got a major crew that's going to be able to slap one up very quickly. Chances are it's going to get snowed in, rained in. A little bit of mold is perfectly normal. It's up to you to determine if your builder is actually going to treat that wood. I would request it up front because, well, you're going to have to pay for that. And if that's going to make you sleep better at night. Once the house is enclosed, and especially once there's an HVAC system running in here and the air is conditioned, there is no more mold growth that's allowed to happen. But we're going to strip and clean everything before we even get to that point, because I just don't want it in my walls in the future. Again, whole episode coming up. So he seemed of absolutely no concern with what he's seen there. I'm sure he's seen far worse houses. Houses get rained in all the time during construction. All right, so what we're about to jump on now is sheathing and roof decking coming up in the next episodes here. So I spent some time discussing that with the inspector. So the roof decking, the sheathing that goes on that, and the sheathing for the wall, well, that actually requires my second inspection, nail pattern inspection. Due to high uplifts and issues that we can have here in hurricane states, specific nail patterns have to be verified by the inspector before I roll and tape my seams up. Because I'm going with zip board here, I'm going to seal those seams. So I verified that was one of my next inspections. After that, it's going to be roof. That's where I spent a little bit of time. We're going to be putting a Galvalume roof up here, and I talked about ventilation for it, ways that we can install it, and what is super critical down here, again in a hurricane state, is my screw patterns. Having remembered my screw pattern from my previous house that was built about 5 or 6 years ago, I asked if it was still that current pattern. So what it's going to require is, say there's a metal sheet up here at the edges where you get your most uplift, well, we've got to do a very tight on either side of the rib screw pattern. Then I verified every 24 inches we go out, we do another run of screws, only one screw on each side of the rib. Yes, I also verified with the type of metal I'm getting, your traditional Galvalume, you put the screws in the flats, not the ribs. Boy, am I gonna just get tore up in the comments whenever that video comes around. And then you work up every 24 inches, just putting on one side of the ribs. I did also find out from the inspector, and this I did not know, at the very peak, you have to put screws on both sides of the rib up there, just like you do on the edge. I did not realize the roof required that because I figured the majority of your uplift was here, but this is why you take time to talk to your inspector. Now he doesn't have to come back out and inspect the roof and go, nope, you messed up. All right, so next inspection after that, and honestly, we can get these all done at the same time. I can go ahead and install the roof, and then he said he wants to come out and do the rough-in inspection. We're so far away from the inspections office, he would prefer me group some together as long as we're not closing up or covering something that he has to see, and that's going to be rough-in electrical. Some of y'all should get excited about that, and rough-in plumbing. Basically, at that point, he'll come out, inspect the metal roof, inspect the electrical, inspect the plumbing, and everything that needs to be done before I cover it all up with insulation. I do believe there's also an insulation inspection, and that'll be one of the last thumbs up before we're allowed to put sheetrock in and actually close the walls up. We're still a long ways out from that. All right, so I know this was more of a talking episode, but it was the first inspection. We got some good things answered. Nothing was really found, which doesn't surprise me because I followed my engineered plans to a T. I pulled up some international building code stuff, been reading codes online, going to the forums, trying very, very hard. I've been listening to some feedback from some viewers. I appreciate y'all for that, and we seem to have the thumbs up. So now what we're about to jump on and focus on, put sheathing on the side of the house, locking this in, decking on the roof. Then we're going to seam tape everything. Now the house is technically sealed in other than the big window openings, which I have. We're going to put those in. I've already ordered my doors, and then we have a dry house. Even though we'll still have one opening up in the roof, you know, the vent all the way up top, technically the house is sealed other than rainwater could come right in the peak. And then once we put our roofing on and our ridge cap, well, the house is technically dried in. Oh my goodness, I have been looking forward to getting here so quickly. Then we can treat the mold, clean the house up, yes. Where we go from there, I really don't know. Once we get this house dried in, I can slow down, I can relax. Then I can make my mind up. Probably going to start on the screen porch, build the back porch back here so we can have some actual stairs to start entering the house. And then we'll focus on like front porch and stuff later. We could put siding on the house. There's so many things we can do at that point. Got enough yakking and talking. I'm going to go start figuring out how I'm going to start putting up sheathing solo. It's going to be interesting, but I've already got some ideas in mind. This lift is going to be a huge help. Don't forget I built some accessories months ago for this lift to carry sheathing, and I may start slapping some of that up today. That means I'm working on your next video. It'll be a little more entertaining than this one was, but this is all part of the process. Meeting with the inspector, going over some stuff, dealing with issues like rain in the house, mold, verifying that all blocking and straps is up to standard per engineering, pleasing the inspector. It's just part of the process. All right, y'all. Thanks for watching. We'll catch you on the next one.